So frequency of competitions, you have a few things to consider. Number one, if you're new to the game and you haven't done many competitions, you have to understand competing is definitely a skill. There is things that happen in a day, just understanding the layout of the day, just understanding how you personally react to nerves and fatigue over a day and all that stuff. Trust me, a million mistakes get made every comp I go to, that you can learn from and do better from. If that is something where if you deem yourself in that category and you're like, yeah, I'm a person that's going to make a ton of mistakes and I've got a lot to learn about a competition day, maybe it is better off that you compete a little bit more frequently, but maybe you don't completely peak for each one. Maybe you pick and choose, like, I'm going to really go hard at this comp, and then these other comps, just going to train through it, and I'm just going to rock up in the day and lift what I can, understanding, hey, the expectations of what I'm going to lift are going to be a little bit lower due to training fatigue from that week and previous weeks. But I'm going to have progressive stimulus during those weeks to keep me moving forward, and then the competition is just like what we said, just a little bit of practice, just a little bit of skill building of competitions. Whereas if you're somebody who is quite skilled and already done a bunch of comps and have a lot to learn about doing comps, you're pretty confident in yourself at comps. People don't understand that doing too many comps can absolutely take away from progression. As in, when you're leading into a competition, you have stimulus to keep you moving forward. So you have a certain amount of squats, bench, deadlifts, and accessories in there that you're going to train at a certain intensity that is going to get you better at the comp lifts. That's the whole point of a prep. And then towards the end of the prep, there's going to be a bit of fatigue there that's going to kind of hide your true strength on squat, bench, and deadlift. And then you're going to pull back in the last usually couple of weeks before comp, in what we call a taper, in order to get rid of that fatigue and allow you to express your strength. So you're going to get on the platform and be able to do your best lifts possible. So hopefully that's some personal bests in there. And that process during those couple of weeks is usually not too stimulating of progression because we're focused mainly on reducing fatigue. So in those last couple of weeks, you're probably not moving forward. You feel like you're moving forward because you're feeling better and you're getting stronger in terms of weight on the bar, but you're not actually stimulating muscle to grow more. You're not forcing your body to change. And then similar after a comp, you are usually in a state of, you're pretty beat up from the comp day if you went well, and usually don't feel like doing a whole lot of training in the week after, which is completely understandable. So that week after, you're kind of taking a real low week. You're not using much. A lot of my guys don't train at all. And then the week after that, you're kind of just getting back into it, finding your loads again. Maybe you've got a new plan in place, but again, not super stimulating for progression. So that's potentially in that scenario there, 4 weeks, and maybe even a little bit longer, depending on how long you taper and how long after a comp it takes you to get back in your groove, that you are not going to be progressing forward in. I mean, progressing forward in other senses, skills, competing, all that stuff, but like in terms of actually getting stronger and or bigger, you're not really doing a whole lot. So if you did that, say, 4 times a year, that's 4 months out of a year. There's a hell of a chunk of a year that you are spending not going forward. It's just, and it can hold you back. I've seen people absolutely hold themselves back from it.
It's a much higher risk of injury as well, right?
Yeah, to a
Like
degree.
if you're peaking consistently throughout that and you're putting maximal load on your back,
It's more like a risk of, when you say it's, the definition of injury comes in clutch here, because I wouldn't say injury is in catastrophic injury.
yeah,
Like you're going to tear something or break something so much. We can't definitively say that, but definitely in terms of like overuse injury. So like, itises,
yeah,
inflammation of your elbows and your knees and all that stuff that is generally seen amongst competitive lifters.
yeah. When you do that over the course of, like you said, if you're losing 3 to 4 months of the year, where you could be working on some of those other quote unquote like weaknesses, whether they're lifestyle weaknesses, training weaknesses,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep. Some structural balance stuff, whatever it is. Um, instead you're just slamming the same movements over and over and over and over, which again isn't exactly a bad thing, but it can quickly put you down a hole if you're not too careful.
Would you say there's like a mental fatigue that comes from it as well? Like if your
I've,
identity is so tied to being a powerlifter and competing so consistently, like surely there's like a mental burnout that comes from that where you're just like, fuck this, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you'll find that the lifespan of the competitive side of lifting is maybe shorter because the frequency is so high.
I don't know. Some people enjoy competing, so I don't know if it's so much of that. But I feel like instead, if we take a different viewpoint in this and go like, and we look at like what motivation is made up of, there's a few different factors, but one of them is like belief that you have the ability to move forward, to make changes in your life or in your program or whatever, to actually move forward. If you don't feel that's possible, then you're not going to be motivated, and that can quickly become the case if you do these too many comps. You don't realize that it's hindering progress, and then you're going into each of these comps not making any gains, just doing the same weights. Maybe you're going backwards, and then you're like, crap, I can't make any progress, and then you lose belief. That leads to a loss in motivation, and then it leads to getting over it.
Yeah.
So that's how I would view it. So they're the signs that I would be watching out for if I was coaching somebody in that situation.
Yeah, because I just see, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking like a lot of young up and coming guys rise and then they fall really quickly because they get over that. There's either injuries or something like that that's come up along the way,
Yeah, there's a
overuse
very
injuries
multifactorial,
or whatever.
very
But
a
yeah,
lot going on there.
like powerlifting at the end of the day is a sport that's very forgiving for age, and you have to be looking long term and things like that as well, right?
Yeah, and you need to understand that there's just literally no shortcuts. I can tell you right now that you can go, I'm going to train as hard as I possibly can, and like do everything with 110% intensity and attack every gym session, and things are still going to be slow. Things are still like, your body can only adapt at a certain rate, can only get better at a certain rate, and if you try, in some cases, if you try to push too fast, all you're going to do is potentially injure yourself, or like it's actually not going to, it's going to hold you back, which is crazy. Um, so I'm not saying don't try, but like try within the limits. Get somebody smart that knows what they're doing with programming and progression rates, and understands these adaptation rates, and can program in a sensible way that has you moving forward at a rate that is going to have you leading to consistent gains over a long period of time. And even the things that you think are shortcuts, aka elephant in the room, PEDs, it's only a shortcut again if you don't, like in some aspects, but it's still going to take a long time to get strong. And if you try to go too fast, again, there's you're too hard too fast is your injury risk. That's most cases can be just brought back to that simple thing. You're trying to progress way too quickly. You're trying to go too hard too quick in too short of a time, and it's just that's what's going to get you injured. It's not so much like any particular factor, or any particular exercise or anything like that. It's you trying to push too hard too fast, and try to force progression that is going to push you over the edge most of the time.
Yeah, for sure.